Hello, second grade. You've been doing some fantastic research lately, and we are going to start turning that research into a book. Much like the people that have been researching all of our famous Americans and have written these wonderful books that we've gotten to read about them, they had to research before they could write. And you all have been doing that same thing. And now it's time to put it into a book. One of the most important things we can do as a writer is to hook our reader. Now, in order to be able to hook our reader, we have to look at the information that we're given. So I'm getting ready to share with you my research on my famous American, and then we're going to talk about how we could hook our reader to make them want to read so that they read our book, right? So I'm going to share my screen with you and I'm going to show you my research on George Washington. Now I'm going to zoom in and I'll make it kind of big, okay? And when I make it kind of big, you can see all this information. Who's my famous American? It's George Washington. When was he born? Where was he born? When did he die? And all of these pieces of information that I've been doing. Give me a little wiggle waggle like this if you've been doing the same thing about your famous American. Yes, I've been seeing some pretty amazing research and I can't wait to see it come into a book. But like I said, research is one thing, but now we want to write it in a way that anyone can read. And we love reading our books that are all about people. And now we have a chance to do that for someone else. Now, in second grade, one of the most important things we can do is to write an introduction. Now, when I've read some introductions, I'm going to show you a couple different things. You might have paper that looks like this. You might have paper that looks like this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Or you might have paper that has a bigger picture and fewer lines. It might be a little bit farther apart. Now, it's important for you to know that you need to have your research right by you. You don't ever want to put that research away because that's where you're going to get your information from. As we've been reading some of our biographies, I've noticed that our authors start in different ways. Our I am books always start with I am George Washington. I am Rosa Parks. I am Martin Luther King Jr. I am Neil Armstrong. That's one way to hook your reader. When I see that, I think to myself, what am I going to learn about this person? And then we have our picture book of books where it might say in, and it gives a date, and then it tells you who the person is and when they were born. And it starts to tell you about their birth, how their childhood was, and it tells a story as their life goes on. Now, it's up to you to be as creative as you want to be. You might even think about an interesting story or a question that you can start your story with to hook your reader. Because remember, your goal with your introduction is to hook your reader and to give a little snippet about what you've learned so far about them so that they want to continue reading. So I'm going to start, and I want to use this paper. Now, that might mean that I use this paper all the way through my book. And it might mean that I change it up a little bit depending on what I'm writing about on that page. But for my introduction, I need something big. And I'm going to do exactly that at the top. I'm going to write a heading so that I know what page I'm writing on and what I'm going to be doing on this page. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. I see it's not very dark on the screen. My heading tells you what's going to be told on this page. This page is my introduction. I'm introducing my character. I'm introducing my famous American. Now, my famous American is George Washington. Now, I can start, and one thing I thought would be really helpful for us to think about is what we might want to include in our introduction. We definitely want to include his name. We definitely want to include where he's born and when he's born. And we may even want to include one of the contributions, right? Because we really want to find out and we really want to hook our reader to let them know this person was important and this is why. That doesn't mean you're going to tell all about that contribution on this page, but it does mean that you are going to hook them and make them want to read about this very important person. So I see George Washington. He's born on February 22nd, 1732. He's born in Virginia, and he was the first president of the United States of America. I also learned about him that he was the father of our country. So I thought to myself, what would be the most important thing I would want to say about George Washington to really hook our reader? And the first thing I thought was, I love to ask a good question when I'm starting my introduction. Because when I ask that question, it makes my reader want to try to answer it. And if they can't answer it, they keep reading so they can find out. So I might say, who was the first president of the United States of America? I could even keep asking some different questions. Remember when you did that in first grade, where you kept asking some different questions to make people want to be able to answer them? Who was the first president of the United States of America? And you don't have to use all the lines, okay? You can kind of be creative in how you write it. Who was the father? And I'm going to put quotation marks because that's what they called him. The father of our country. And I'm writing all my questions with a capital at the beginning and a question mark at the end. Who was the first president of the United States of America? Who was the father of our country? And I might write, ooh, I love this. This is so fun. George Washington. So now I've told two different things that talk about his contributions without even just telling you, but asking you and giving you that little clue. Who was the first president of the United States of America? Who was the father of our country? George Washington. And now I can tell you a little bit more. George Washington. And what do you think I'm going to include? I think I heard somebody say it, his birthday. Oh, what else might I include? Where he's born. Remember, have I introduced his name? Check. Have I talked about some of his contributions? Check. What have I not done yet? Absolutely. I have not included his birthday or where he's born. So now I'm going to move my paper to the side a little bit so I can see this information. But I don't want to write it down the wrong way. George Washington was born in I might have spelled that wrong. I'll have to go back and check my information. I was having a typing issue when I was writing this in front of my friends. I think it's Westmoreland County, Virginia. But that's why I'm doing it with a pencil so I can erase it. On February 22nd, comma, that's where I took my comma, 1732. He was best known. So this is where I'm going to tell a little bit more about what I did up here. So I'm telling you where he's born, when he's born, and then just a tidbit more about what we know about him. He was best known for being the first president of our country. but you'll learn so much more about this famous American in this book. And then I love to go and kind of come back to the beginning. I asked questions at the beginning. I answered it. Then I wrote a couple little sentences, and you guys can use some of these sentence frames too if it helps you. I like to ask one more question. And what I'm wondering about it, I'm telling them, yes, he's known for being the first president of the United States, but there's so much more to know about him. So I'm going to ask another question. Are you ready for this? Now, writers, I'm telling you, good writers go back and reread their writing to make sure that it makes sense and to give them an idea of what else they want to say. So I'm going to do one more quick reread, and then I'm going to add my last sentence on this page. Who was the first president of the United States of America? Who was, I think I want to put known as the father of our country? George Washington. George Washington was born in Westmoreland County, Virginia on February 22nd, 1732. He was best known for being the first president of our country, but you'll learn so much more about this famous American in this book. I don't really like that last sentence. I think I might want to change this. I think I want to say, but there is so much more that makes him important. What will you learn about George Washington? Now, writers, after I write my introduction, I always want to have a picture that's going to go best with that page. And if I'm introducing George Washington and I'm saying when he's born, or I'm saying that he's best known for being the first president of the United States, then I might include a picture of him, right? Just him, not a whole lot of things on the outside, because I'm not really talking about anything else. So I could sketch a picture of him. I could do just his face. I could draw him on a horse. You all have tons and tons of sources that you can use to get a good idea of a good picture you want to draw of your famous American on your introduction page. But I'll tell you, you want to make sure it stands out and looks strong and fantastic so that your reader wants to read more about that person that they see at the top. Writers, today and every day, I want you, as you are researching, remember that your research doesn't stop at when you've collected it. You can keep sharing that research by putting it into different modes, I would like to say, of writing so that other people can enjoy the research you've done. I can't wait to read your stories about your famous Americans, and I will see you again tomorrow with the next part of our book. Happy writing!